All right, let's dive right into this explainer. I want you to picture a city that the entire ancient world considered to be completely 100% untouchable. We are talking about ancient Babylon, an absolute megacity. History tells us it boasted 100 solid brass gates and walls that were an astonishing 200 feet high. They were literally so thick that you could drive 6 chariots side by side right across the top of them. Add in the mighty Euphrates River acting as a massive moat and enough food stored up to outlast years of a siege, and you've got a fortress. Yet this legendary, supposedly impenetrable city completely collapsed in a single night. I mean, how does that even happen? Well, that is exactly the fascinating mystery we're unlocking today.
So, in this explainer, we are going to map the incredibly poetic, devastating prophecies found in the biblical chapter of Isaiah 47 directly onto the hard, documented historical facts of this empire's demise. We'll be looking closely at the fall of Babylon and how this entire concept of divine justice played out in real, historical events.
Here is our roadmap for today. First up, the humiliation of Babylon, followed by their judgment for unmerciful cruelty and their arrogance and sudden destruction. After that, we'll cover their historical falls and rebellions, their trust in wickedness, and we'll wrap up with the futility of their sorcery.
Okay, Section 1, the humiliation of Babylon, the decreed downfall of a legendary empire.
Isaiah chapter 47 opens with this absolutely devastating decree. Isaiah chapter 47, verse 1 states, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." Now the big takeaway here is this profound, unimaginable reversal of fortune. Sitting in the dust isn't just a poetic metaphor, it actively symbolizes deep mourning and violent impoverishment. These are people who were used to being waited on hand and foot, living in the absolute lap of luxury, and now they are being told their throne is gone. They are quite literally being tossed out into the street. And the imagery just gets more visceral from there. Isaiah chapter 47, verse 2 states, "Take the millstones and grind meal, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers." This brilliantly illustrates their brutal transition from royalty right into captivity. They're being ordered to pack up these heavy stone grinders just to make their own basic bread. As captives of Persia, these high society women would be forced into a shameful, grueling march across the Euphrates River. They'd have to remove their veils, which was a massive cultural humiliation back then, and bare their legs just to wade through the water, totally stripped of all their former dignity. Then Isaiah chapter 47, verse 3 states a very harsh reality. "Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man." The Lord is saying he's stepping in here, not just as another human army, but with an irresistible, divine power. To really help contextualize the physical and psychological violation of this kind of captivity, the source text neutrally notes a pretty chilling modern parallel. It compares this ancient cruelty and shaming to the modern border smuggling violence we see today from Mexican cartels. It really drives home the terrifying reality for vulnerable people caught in the hands of a ruthless conquering force.
Moving right along to Section 2, Judgment for Unmerciful Cruelty. Basically, reaping what was sown.
So, why is this happening? Isaiah chapter 47 verse 6 states the core reason. "I was wroth with my people, I have polluted mine inheritance, and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancients hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke." Essentially, God was angry with the Israelites for turning to idolatry, right? So he allowed Babylon to conquer them as a form of discipline. But here's the catch. Babylon went way, way too far. They were supposed to conquer, but instead they acted with unjust, unmerciful cruelty. They placed a violently heavy yoke on the Jewish people. So what we're seeing is a classic eye for an eye judgment. Babylon showed absolutely no mercy, so now they were about to receive zero mercy in return.
Which brings us to Section 3, Arrogance and Sudden Destruction, the Illusion of Eternal Power.
Look at this stark contrast between human ego and divine reality. On the left, we have Babylon's boast from verse 7, "I shall be a lady forever." Looking at those 200-foot walls and their endless stockpiles of food, they genuinely thought they were exempt from the normal rise and fall of human empires. They thought they were untouchable. But directly opposed to that arrogance is the reality of God's judgment. They are promised widowhood and the loss of their children. Their illusion of eternal power was about to be totally shattered. And that leads us to the terrifying promise. Isaiah chapter 47, verse 9 states, "But these two things shall come to thee in a moment in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection." This is a dire warning that entire generations, the princes, the everyday people, would be wiped out. And I want you to pay close attention to that phrase, in a moment in one day. Because as you'll see next, this wasn't just dramatic poetry. It was an exact, historically verifiable prediction.
All right, Section 4, Historical Falls and Rebellions. This is where prophecy meets the historical record.
Let's look at the actual timeline. In 538 BC, that prophecy of falling in one day literally happened. Just like it's recorded in the book of Daniel, King Belshazzar saw the handwriting on the wall, and that exact same night, Cyrus the Great and the Persians swept in and conquered the seemingly invincible city. It was swift and it was decisive. But, Babylon's pride was stubborn. They rebelled under Cambyses II around 530 BC, and then they launched a massive defiant rebellion in 522 BC, even declaring a brand new Nebuchadnezzar. Well, this forced the Persian king, Darius the Great, to march his army right back to the city.
And here is where it gets incredibly dark, and where that prophecy of loss of children and widowhood comes upon them in perfection. Darius laid siege to Babylon for 20 grueling months. Because the Babylonians were so stubbornly determined to hold out, they made a truly horrifying, unimaginable calculation. To save their food supply, every man chose just one woman from his family to bake bread, and then they literally strangled the rest of their own families. By their own hands, they brought about the exact widowhood and loss of children that Isaiah had predicted. And when Darius finally breached the walls, he ordered 3,000 of Babylon's most prominent men to be crucified. It is a chilling, perfect fulfillment of the text.
Section 5. Trust in wickedness. The perversion of wisdom.
Isaiah chapter 47, verse 10 really exposes their mindset here. It states, "For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, None seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me." They honestly thought their worldly cunning made them completely immune to consequences. Interestingly, to illustrate this perverted wisdom, the source material actually draws a comparison to modern college campuses. It impartially reports how certain left-wing and Marxist ideologies today aim to deconstruct traditional national and familial values. The text's overarching point here is that across both eras, relying purely on secular, arrogant wisdom ultimately leads to a severe perversion of the truth.
And finally, Section 6. The futility of sorcery. False saviors exposed.
Babylon was actually the ancient hub of astrology and magic. They believed their sorcery could literally control the course of global events, but verse 13 just mocks this reliance. Isaiah challenges them, basically saying, all right, call up your experts, bring out the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators. You guys are exhausted by all your earthly strategies, so let's see these magicians stand up and save you from the Persians. But, spoiler alert, they were completely, hopelessly powerless against the advancing army.
But their ultimate fate? Isaiah chapter 47 verse 14 states, "Behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame, there shall not be a coal to warm at." The judgment heading for Babylon is going to consume these false saviors like dry stubble in a massive field fire. It's going to be so thorough that there won't even be a single warm coal left behind. Those wooden idols they bowed to, the intricate magical systems they developed, the whole shebang would be utterly wiped out. It's a total desolation of anyone selling false hope. So, what should we really take away from all of this today? Well, we've just seen how ancient prophecy met historical reality in the most literal, brutal way imaginable. The highest walls, the thickest brass gates, and the greatest wealth in the known world absolutely could not stop divine justice from showing up in a single night. And I think that leaves us with a really profound, provocative question to chew on. If the impregnable, legendary walls of ancient Babylon couldn't protect it from sudden collapse, what does that mean for the arrogant empires and powers of our world today? It is a fascinating piece of history, and it definitely echoes right into the present. Thanks so much for diving into this explainer with me. Keep exploring the history and definitely keep asking the big questions.